Welcome back. I'd like to share with you a new English topic. Today, I will share a very interesting topic. It's about how to tell a story, particularly how to do it in English. And I want to share with you a few tips, and I hope they will help you to improve your ability to tell story, to be to improve your skill, to be more effective. So let's start with storytelling. Telling stories is typical in any language. In any language, it means in your mother tongue language, but particularly in English language. As we normally share about our past, something that happened in the past, some activity, some particular event, and something that we experienced. So, the first question: what is storytelling? Storytelling is almost always part of a conversation with other people in a classroom, in a club, but it is also a skill that any person should get better if they want to communicate effectively and to connect with other people. So, learning how to tell your story in an easy way in order to be understood will help you to draw your listeners' attention. Tips number one: start the story using beginning phrases. In typical conversation, storytelling begins after, you know, ask with a question like, what happened? When did it happen? How did it happen? Why did it happen? So, you have to try to start with an introduction of your story to let the listener to know what you are going to say, what you are going to talk about. So, it's better to start your story with sentences like, to begin, it all began when, and so on. Tips number two: provide a background to set the scene of your story. By providing your listener a clear background, they will be able to imagine the scene of the story, and feel as they are there. So, you have to include details about who is involved, where it took place, and what you were doing at that time. Tips number three: talk about real events and challenges. Try to tell real events. Don't be tempted to be good and perfect. Someone may find the story less interesting and boring. If you are going to talk about success or victory, don't omit the challenges you face along the way. People are interested in what is relatable about the struggles and how you overcome them, what you did in order to overcome obstacles. A story with a perfect life will sound unreal and fictional. When sharing the real story of real people, or your personal story, do not try to invent a perfect character. Also, don't try to invent a plot. Create a story that you think your listener would prefer to hear. Tips number 4. Choose relevant content. Try to include details that are important to be mentioned in the story and omit the ones that aren't needed. Overly detailed stories are hard to follow, thus can create a rambling feeling among your listener. You can share relevant content by involving details in your experience that you think are relatable in your listener. Tips number 5. Use sequencing words. You have to, while you're telling your story, you have to continue giving details in the story, but do it in an organized way, including proper sequencing event. So, smoothly transition your story from event by using sequencing words. So, there are a few sequencing words that you can use to continue or connect your story. They are, first of all, previously, next, after that, finally, in the end. Tips number 6. Use interruption words to create suspense. While you are telling your story, you may want to add some elements to avoid the same flow in the story or make it more interesting. In order to hint to your listener that something surprising or important is about to happen, use words that introduce interruptions. This will make your listener to tune and listen to you a bit more closely, pay more attention. So, interrupting phrases to add new elements in the story include suddenly, unexpectedly. Tips number 7. Use linking words. Throughout your storytelling, you might need to give reasons for action, mention contrast information, and share about the result. So, connecting details, connecting them well until you reach the end of the narrative will make it more story-like. So, you have to keep your story flow logical, keep your listener engaged and interested. So, there are a few transitional words you can use: because, as a result, although. Tips number 8. You have to use time words. Time words will enable your listener to know when the event took place. It also allows them to better imagine the situation and determine how recent or old it was. Example of time words: yesterday, lately, today, this morning, last night. Tips number 9: describe emotions. Make your story compelling by communicating the emotion that you experience. Interesting stories don't just present detail of when, where, and what happened, but also include what triggered action and how you felt. By describing your emotion, your listener can understand what you felt at that time. Describing your emotion, your listener can understand what you felt. To do this, the word the words that can create and describe strong emotion are: the news was so shocking. I was speechless. It was devastating. Tips number 10: use sensory words. Make your story come alive using words that talk about your senses. Including as many senses as possible will guide your listener to connect and picture what you are describing. Use words that tell about sound, taste, smell, and look. Tips number 11: use appropriate adjectives. Use different adjectives to draw a picture while telling your story. Adjectives help create better mental images and make your story more colorful and dramatic. Make your adjectives appropriate according to the kind of story you are telling. If you are sharing a sad story, use sad adjectives. It is happy if it is a happy story, then use happy sound adjectives. Tips 11 and 12. Tell your story in English to reach more people. While it is good to share your story in your vernacular language, there are also a lot of advantages in sharing your story in English, particularly if you are communicating with people who speak a different language. They can understand your story if you share it in English. Tips 13. Use colloquial and casual words. People like to listen to stories to be amused, entertaining, and be inspired. Storytelling often happens during a casual conversation when people want to slow down and distress. If they are relaxed in a relaxed state, people would want to listen to a story that is easy to understand. So, by using everyday words that you and your listeners use, they will be able to be more connected to your story. Tips 14. Use the word said. Part of telling stories is quoting what other people said that may have resulted in triggering some events or actions in the story. To talk about the speech of other people, you have to use the past tense of say, which is said. So you may say, Peter said, my friend said, he said. Tips 15. Use correct tenses. When telling stories, you can use a variety of tenses to give a hint of when the action took place. Mostly, you will be using past tense to tell events that happened in the past. Meanwhile, when talking about things that do not change, you use the present tense. Tips 16. Try to end your story well. It's very important. When you are about to wrap up your narrative, prepare your listener to disengage from your story. Abruptly ending a story will make them feel left hanging. So, use key phrases or words as well to hint that your story is about to end. Some ending phrases and words you can use are finally, in the end, lastly, conclusion. People often listen to story as part of engaging in a relaxing conversation or out of curiosity. Make sure to connect with the people, with the listener, and include details that are relevant to them. The content, the words that you use, the way you tell the story, the appropriate language you use, the ability to draw people attention, and how you deliver it will determine how it will impact others. And that's all for this topic. I do hope you appreciate this story. See you next time. Thank you for watching.